And what does nature do? And why is it so important to connect to nature and bring nature in as our medicine and our ally into the work that everyone is doing here? Why is that important, and what have you seen? And we're going to start with David.
Yeah.
Because you're outnumbered.
Thank you. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. I just want to express a little bit of gratitude, because everything at Wild Earth starts with gratitude. I find it's a way to ground ourselves in the present moment from all our busy lives and wherever we've come. So I want to express some gratitude. I got here last night. Many of you didn't get here till today, but I got to spend a lot of today walking on this land and feeling the power of this place. And I got a chance to walk out and look at the river and look at the Sandia Mountain. And looking at the mountain made me remember to be strong. It reminded me to stay in my truth and not be afraid. The time we live in there's no room for fear anymore. And I looked at the river, and the river was flowing strong, and it reminded me not to fight the current, that the current is like to go with the flow of what's happening. We're going in a good direction. Even though the news media wants to show you such a bad message, we are going in a good direction, and you are all part of that, the reason we're going in a good direction, so thank you for that. And then the cottonwood trees, my gosh. Cottonwood trees reminded me to open my heart. Right? Did you see those? Do you see the cottonwood leaves? Yeah, I'm a man, so very often, I push my heart down, So I'm remembering to open my heart, because the world needs a man's heart. Yeah? So, and then I was going back, and I've done a lot of talking to some of the native folks at Tamaya, and trying to get the history of what happened here. And I couldn't help but feel what it must have been like 300 or 400 years ago on this land, right? You get the sense of, and maybe the diorama helped me, but a really intact, earth-connected village lived here, right here. People, right? Mothers who made pottery and made cooking fires and foraged for food for families, and fathers and men who went out on sacred hunts and brought back food, and elders who told stories to children and counseled chiefs and others. And what were the children doing? This is the part that I want to turn to, is the children. What were the children doing? Right? They were playing, right? They were kind of creating their own world, right? While all the work was getting done in the village, they were creating their own world in the village, learning how to be adults their own way. Yeah? So, I want to fast forward, skipping colonization, slavery, agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, technological revolution, all these revolutions, all these things that were supposed to make life better. All frauds. Not one has worked. Mm-hmm. Not one. Right? So I'm going to fast forward all the way to 1975. And now I'm 10 years old and living in a world that, my parents, my dad got on the bus every morning and went off to New York City. We lived in a bedroom community in suburban New Jersey. And my mom, she made dinner and took care of the kids. And so they were kind of like disjointed and like alone and isolated. But the kids, we still had it pretty good. We got off the bus. And this is my memory of my nature connection. I'm often asked, well, why did you do this? Why did you start this nature connection programming, at Wild Earth? And I said, well, I got off the bus every day after school, and I dropped my book bag, and I played outside. I played outside until it was dark. Did anyone used to do that? You play outside? You played outside? So we played outside, and we created our own games. And we ran into the woods, and we played at the creek. It was a very, very complex world that we created together. And what was true about it was no parents ever watched what we did. No parents ever watched. So we made our own rules, we made our own leaders, we different games that sometimes went on for 3 weeks and every day, and then eventually, it would become so dark that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and your parents would call you in and say, dinner, or hit the cowbell or whatever, and that was our life. And that was my nature connection memory, was just being outside with other kids. I'm gonna fast forward you to 30 years later, The year is 2005, and now I have 3 boys of my own. And we live in a beautiful property in beautiful Hudson Valley. A mountain range, like the Sandias, but different, like forested, beautiful, beautiful fields, beautiful woods, beautiful streams coming through. And my kids are in the house. Screen here, screen there, and all the kids in the community, none of the kids were playing. I was like, guys, you want to play outside? They don't, right? They're connecting here, right? Disconnecting here. That's a disconnection. And so several families and I were like, this is not good. And our kids are disconnected from the earth. And we need to remember the earth-connected village. We need to return to a vibrant, intact community, an earth-connected village. So we sent the kids into the woods. We took away their cell phones. We sent them in the woods with good role models and let them play for 6-7 hours every day. Experiment, right? They came back that first day and they were hungry,
Dirty.
And what else were they? Tired. Hungry, dirty, tired. Those are the 3. You're like safe, seen, and celebrated. Hungry, dirty, tired. That's what we're going for. Because, as parents, we're exhausted. So when your kid comes home and they want to eat their dinner, and they want to get in a bath, and then they want to go to sleep, that's a good thing. Yeah? And it's a healthy thing. It's what kids should be like at the end of the day. But now our kids are not, I don't want dinner. I don't even want to be at the dinner table. Right? I'm not sleepy. They're on their screens till 2 o'clock in the morning. Right? Causing all kinds of other diseases that we call now they can't pay attention. Right? You're with me? So this 10 years later, so this is in 2005, 10 years later in 2015, we're looking and talking about what happened to these kids who have been going out in the woods all the time. And what do you think we found? They became like the leaders in the community, right? They were learning skills, right? They were learning how to make shelter. They were learning how to make fire. They were learning how to weave with natural fibers. And they felt like, hey, I can do stuff. I'm capable, right? And they started to become like the leaders in the community. And they also started to want to serve. They were like, I want to now work with the younger kids. So now at Wild Earth, we have 105 instructors, and 55 of them are the kids who have grown up to be the adults. And so we're creating a mentoring culture. So all that in preparation for, isn't that nice in a white privileged community? Because that's what it was, and that's where we are. But our board of directors said, we have 4 different small cities, about 25,000 people apiece, within 25 minutes of the Hudson, where we live in the Hudson Valley. Kingston, Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, Ellenville, right within half an hour each way. And most of those kids haven't taken step 1 into the woods. So they challenged us to, now that you've done this in your community, create this and seed this in other communities. And so I want to just show you where this work has taken us and where the leading edge of our work is. This is where we live.
You go, Manny.
Wild Earth is a not-for-profit wilderness school. We meet thousands of kids at school for recess and in the woods for deep nature immersion.
Yeah!
We have a very diverse population of students. We have African American, Latino. But I think the biggest disparity is the socioeconomic. We have kids who come from families where they may have a parent in jail. They don't necessarily know if they're going to even eat when they go home tonight.
I'm like that. I don't really go outside. because now everyone's on their phones and electronics.
So this is a different experience for me, and I feel like I'm at home.
We want them to feel the power of themselves as humans. Then they blossom and start to take in the rest of the world.
Do you notice anything?
I love the deer ears.
What I like about the woods is that everything is peaceful. It's only wildlife, music of birds, beautifulness.
What does that look like to you?
We're buddies!
In this school district, in Kingston, every kid gets 56 days of engagement with Wild Earth. We are in the school district, and we are a key partner with the Kingston. We're literally part of their education programming. And largely it happened because they were failing, right? And the New York State was gonna pull their, we're like making them a focused school, you know, which was not a good thing. They didn't want to be focused school. So they're bringing in, we're now doing our work in Ellenville, continuing to run our programs and seeding this kind of work in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Great. They do incredible work. Okay. David, do you have a story that you want to share about it?
Just one story. You know, we've been particularly successful with special education groups. So the kids in the school that need like really a whole lot of extra attention, because our models are 1-on-4, 1-on-5 ratios. That give kids really a lot of attention. They do really well on these trips. And fifth graders, we do this with the fifth grade who are just coming into middle school. Fifth grade is in middle school in this district. And we went out, and the teachers are just observing. The teachers are not really welcome to participate unless they're going to participate fully and with zest. Otherwise, they're welcome to sit and read and do whatever they want on these trips, but they have to be there. And this one boy, when he got off the bus and started walking in the woods, he was so vociferous, talking about how important nature was to him and what all this meant, and he knew what the trees were, and he was like, wow, this kid's really on fire. And we get back to the bus at the end of the day, the teacher came up and she was crying. And we're like, what are you crying for? And she said, I thought he was nonverbal. For 3 weeks, that child had not uttered a word in class. And she saw him in a totally different light. And what we're hearing from the teachers, especially the fifth graders who come in, is they see we call this back to school, back to nature, because as soon as the kids get to school, they're in the woods. And the teachers do not see the kids by what they can do only in the classroom. They see them a fuller version of those kids. And like Jennifer said, the woods do not discriminate. Everybody knows how to play in the woods. If we brought you all into the woods, no matter how much time you've spent there, you would all know what to do. And all kids know what to do.
So while you're here, play in the woods. Rio Grande.